Welcome back to the Unexpected Detour, where in life detours are inevitable. But somehow, by the grace of God, we still find our way through. Today's episode is very personal. It's not a teaching episode, it's not an interview. It's me letting you into a week that shook me, scared me, that reminded me just how present God still is in my life. This episode is titled When Fear Returned to the Room. If you've ever had a test, a scan, a biopsy, or a result that made your heart drop into your stomach, this one's for you. Last Tuesday started out like any other day on the calendar, but it did not end that way. A few days earlier, I had gone for my yearly mammogram, something I had been doing faithfully for over 40 years. You go in, you breathe, you let them position you, you compress, take the images, and most years you'd walk back out just keep moving. But this time, the story didn't stop there. On Wednesday, I got the message we all know too well. There's a new result in the portal, in the patient portal. My heart dropped because if you've ever walked through breast cancer, just seeing that portal notification can make your whole body tense. I logged in slowly, bracing myself. The mammogram report read normal, no evidence of disease, and I breathed out just a little bit. But right underneath it was the ultrasound report and the word abnormal. How could that be? Abnormal? How can one test be you're clear and the other one quietly suggests we see something? It felt like the room started spinning again. Shortly after, I got the call. We need you to come back and have another ultrasound. So I did. I went back the next day, carrying that quiet fear that spits in the back of your throat and doesn't quite turn into words. After the second ultrasound, the radiologist told me, we see a small mass in the right breast. We're going to need to do a core biopsy. And that was the moment fear returned to the room. Because this wasn't the first time. This was my second biopsy, 8 years after the first diagnosis of breast cancer. You would think that after 8 years I'd be stronger, braver, more at peace. But let me tell you the truth. I wasn't brave. I was scared, terrified of the unknown, terrified of going back into a battle I've never wanted to fight again. Tuesday came, biopsy day. I walked into the building with my stomach tight, my mind racing, not because I didn't understand what was happening, but because I understood it too well. There's a different kind of fear that lives in the survivor's body. We don't think about the test. We remember the last time a test changed everything. As I sat in the waiting room area, they called my name. But before that, something beautiful happened. I looked up, and there was my social worker from years ago, the same woman who walked with me through my first breast cancer journey, that same woman who saw me when I was frail, scared, tired, and trying to stay faithful. To my surprise, she remembered me. Not just my face, but my story. She invited me into her office for a moment. We talked. She asked what was going on, and I told her about the abnormal ultrasound, the biopsy, the fear. And for a moment, I felt, I felt held, like God knew I needed a familiar face before I'd lay down on that table. Then they called me in. Ugh. I changed into the gown, laid on the table, and tried to steady my breathing. While we waited for the doctor, I started chatting with the technician. We talked about the size of the mass and what the report said. She looked at me and said, "Wow, you really know your medical terms. You've done your homework." Yes, Franny did her homework. Franny did her homework because Franny found out that I can read my pathology report. That's how I did my homework. I read that pathology report. I learned to look up words that were unfamiliar, to dissect every phrase until I understood it. And I did it over and over again. I knew exactly what my report said. I knew it was a small mass. I knew where it was. I knew I wasn't walking in there blind. And that's what I want to encourage people, or women, anybody. When you get those pathology reports, learn how to read them. Go in there knowing what you're talking about, so you can communicate with the doctor. And the doctor will know you know exactly what's going on, which is what a lot of women don't do. They think they know, but they're not doing their homework, especially when you're a survivor and you've dissected that first report. For years, it took me forever just to dissect the first report. And it was from that first report I found out that when they look at your breasts and they see those lumps, mass, it's like a clock. So for me, the first report on the left side was 7 o'clock, where the breast was, where the lump was. This time it was located on the right hand side, 1 o'clock. 12 o'clock would be here, 1 o'clock there. So the doctor turned and she was looking, she was surprised. I explained to her that that's how I learned from the first time. It might have taken me a while, but I learned. That's part of the survivorship people don't always see. You become a student of your own body. I may have sounded confident in that moment, but inside I was trembling. Knowing the words doesn't ease the fear. It just means you're not confused about what you're afraid of. Then there was another question that had been living inside of me for years. If my breasts were dense all this time, why weren't ultrasounds done sooner? Why wasn't this part of my care earlier? After more than 40 years of mammogram, always being told I had dense breasts, I didn't understand why no one had ever paired that with an ultrasound. It almost felt like something had been missed, like maybe I'd been failed somehow. But during that stretch of appointments, I finally got the answer. When I first started getting mammograms, ultrasounds weren't yet part of the standard recommendations for dense breasts. That explained why I never got an ultrasound. The guidelines weren't there, the technology wasn't there. It is now. Women weren't being routinely told about breast density in the way we are today. It wasn't that no one cared. It wasn't that I was ignored. It was that medicine was still learning. And as much as that stung, it also softened something in me. We live in bodies that have to survive, while the system that cares for them is still catching up. Interesting, isn't it? So, after the biopsy, the real test began, the waiting. If you've ever waited on a biopsy, it feels like weeks. Oh my gosh. You're like this, nerves going, all tense. Anyway, You try to live your life. You try to work, try to eat, sleep. You try to pray. But in the background, that question keeps tapping on your heart. What if it's back? What if you had to do this all over again? God, please, not again. I won't pretend I wasn't floating on faith every second. I had moments of fear, moments of tears, moments where I tried to read between the lines that weren't even written yet. But I also had moments of surrender. God, I don't know what this is, but I know you. I need you to meet me in this waiting. And then finally, the message came. A familiar notification, new results available. I opened the portal, heart pounding, hands shaking just a bit, and there it was. Fibrodermia, benign breasts with stromal fibrosis. I read it once, then again, then again. Benign, non-cancerous, not a return of breast cancer, not a second battle. Just like that, the fear had been sitting on my chest, started to lift. I cried, not out of panic this time, but out of gratitude. Gratitude, out of sheer relief. Because even when you trust God, you're still human. And the human heart remembers the last time it got bad news. This time, the detour ended differently. This time, the road bent, but it didn't break me. Here's what the detour taught me again. You can be scared and still show up. I wasn't fearless. I went in scared, but I still went. Knowing your body matters. Understanding dense breasts, 1 o'clock, fibrodermia, all that helped me to better ask questions. Medicine is still learning, and that can hurt. But as medicine grows more, women are protected. And when medicine learns, women heal. We heal through clarity, through better tools, through honest conversations with doctors, through finally understanding what's happening inside our bodies. And faith doesn't always remove fear, but it holds you up while you walk through it. This was another unexpected detour, but it wasn't another war. It was a reminder how far I've come, how much I've survived, and how important it is to keep telling the truth about what it feels like to live in this body, on this road, with this history. If you're listening to this right now and you're waiting for results, or you're afraid of a test, or your heart is replaying old diagnosis, I want you to know you're not alone. Your fear is valid. Your questions are valid. Your need for answers is holy. Ask the questions. Learn your body. Advocate for yourself. I will always say that. Advocating is not about making money. It's about opening up your mouth, letting them hear you. Speak up for yourself and hold on to the truth that even when fear returns to the room, God never left it. Thank you for listening to my heart today. Thank you for letting me share this detour with you. This has been the Unexpected Detour, where life detours are inevitable. But you don't have to walk them by yourself. Anyway, thank you for listening, and ciao.